Like, are you
Good. I can cut all this out. What is up, Cabbage Crew? Hear me. Your face. Yo. All right, we'll start over. Right, ready? Yeah, I can cut all this out, dude. I can just post edit all this.
okay?
I don't like post editing in the middle because it chops everything up and makes
Right,
it
right.
harder. But in the beginning, I can just take this
Mhm.
out. All right, ready? Your face, though. I have to wait. I wanna enlarge this and just not look at your face. Oh my god! Give me a second. I literally have my hand over it.
I think you need a pair of jeans to cover that.
Oh my god! Hey, that's hilarious. All right, ready?
So, can you be like, John? You know what today is? It is.
Yes.
It's
Well,
Legend
go
of
ahead.
Korra. What?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
You're like, John, you know what today is? We're talking about Avatar. And then I'll be like, season 2 of Korra.
Well, I was gonna do the normal beginning, like, "What's up, everyone? Welcome to." I was gonna say what matters now. Holy crap! Yeah, what's up, everyone? Like, my whole thing, and then be like, "This is Matt and John. We're gonna be talking about Korra season 2. John, what's your quick thoughts on season 2?" And then you can be like,
Sounds good. That's what I'll do then.
"What's up, everyone? Welcome to What Matters Now, the show we bring you what matters now in the world of entertainment, and we debate about it. My name is Matt. This is Matt the Hat. We're gonna start." That was literally my old podcast I had when I was like 20. I was actually talking about the other day because he has his own channel, and I'm like, man, I wish we continued doing that. That would be crazy. Where we at now? All right. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another review with myself, Matt, and John. We're going to be talking about Korra season 2, Spirits, and I've seen it a couple times. John saw it when it first came out, and he is now going to. You did rewatch it, and John, what is your quick reaction to season 2?
I mean,
Pretty much.
that sums it up.
Oh, man.
That's my quick facial reaction to season 2.
Yeah, so we talked about season 1 a little bit, the other day, and overall, I feel like you liked it more after a rewatch than you did when you originally watched it, and maybe some of the other times. I feel like the entire show is better. Like, as you're watching it, sometimes I found myself picking it apart, and but after the show was over, I looked back and I was like, you know what? Better than I thought, I guess you could say. So, real quickly, if you want to just talk about season 1, your overall thoughts, and then we'll jump right into season 2.
Sure. I mean, like, I thought season 1 was a good introduction to a new Avatar series, where you got Korra, who is depicted as like a badass young woman Avatar, and she and everyone else knows that she's the Avatar by the age of like 5 or 6 years old. And I thought villain Amon, they did very good character development with him, with the whole, like, being very mysterious, very like Joker. It's like Joker and Riddler combined is what I would say like Amon is. Okay. And Riddler in the sense of like just like the mystery behind him, not like the jokes, and because there was no joke that he said or whatever. But yeah, so I would say good character development with Amon, and they brought you along with one of Aang's kids, Tenzin, and they just did a decent job of introducing Tenzin being Korra's mentor, and trying to master airbending. It was really well rounded. Season 1 was very well rounded for my third rewatch. I did enjoy it pretty well.
Yeah, they did really good at introducing the characters and the world that they were in, the new world we have. And I agree with you. I think Amon, it was one of the highlights of season 1. I consistently say like Korra is an average show with a lot of great ideas, and some of those ideas are not done. Like some of those ideas on paper are great, and then it's like they end up not being as good as like we talked about, like bloodbending. The bloodbending kind of taking away the ability to bend, how that all worked out. One of the weaknesses of Amon as a character and how it just all played out. But the idea was great. So,
Right.
So like that's kind of a mixed bag, I think, in Korra altogether. So let's talk about season 2. Talk about a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Because season 2 is wild. Spirits. Season 2 spirits. So let's just talk about the spirits. We'll just jump right into it. What's your thoughts? They portray the spirit world way different in season 2 than Avatar: The Last Airbender, which we've talked about before. Aang only goes into the spirit world, I think, twice, maybe 3 times in Avatar: The Last Airbender. So even our idea of what the spirit world is going into Korra is very restricted and not like we don't have a full picture. But man, they really changed up the spirit world. What's your first take on the spirit world of Korra?
So, in particular, and we'll get back to this, but in particular, what I remember was when Jinora and Korra first went into the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
And Janora's side of the spirit world, I thought I was watching a Studio Ghibli film. Like I really thought I don't know if you're familiar with Studio Ghibli or not, but like it's like the type of animation style like Spirited Away.
Okay. Is it a bad thing or a good thing? I'm not.
That just depends on how you view the film. It took me through a loop. I was not expecting it. I don't. I'll be honest. I'll just be truthful. I don't think I liked it. It was very colorful, very pretty. Like those are positives, but I just liked the mysterious darkness of the behind it. Mm-hmm. Behind it, like what we're used to. And yeah, so that's just my. I thought, and our audience, our Cabbage crew members, if you've seen Spirited Away, I hope, or any Studio Ghibli film, I hope you know what I'm trying to say or talk about. But yeah, it was just not my cup of tea, which we'll get to very soon.
Yeah, the art style. I'm trying to think of the word. Is it pastel? Pastel?
Might be pastel, yeah.
Pastel.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds right.
It's just the art. It reminded me of that. Like the art style was very like. It looked like it was done in like. It looked like it was done almost in like not marker, but paint. Like it looked like it was done in paint.
It was a painting, yeah.
It was like a painting, and that the idea of that is kind of cool. I like the idea of they go into the spirit world and it's a different. It's not only as a different world, different vibe, but a different art style. And I like how they did that in the 2-parter. The 2-part when she goes back, I thought that was really unique. I just don't think, like you said, something I liked about the spirit world was the mystique of it, the eerie feeling you had when you were in the spirit world. And this was more of a colorful. I wrote it down. Alice in Wonderland. They had the Alice, and they even had like the whole vibe of like the tea party and everything later on. But like, it was very much like we were going in Alice in Wonderland, which is less of a eerie spirit world and more of a trip dream. So I think it was just out of place. I know what they're trying to do, but I agree with you. I didn't really like it in certain aspects.
Just building off that real quick, it's related to Spirited Away. because like the whole idea of the film of Spirited Away is a little girl that thinks of like her imagination runs wild and she's in a dream, and that's exactly what I thought of when they went to the spirit world. So
yeah. So yeah, pretty early on, we get introduced to a spirit, a dark spirit that Korra takes on, and I didn't even write this down, but it might have been when Korra was going against that spirit. It might have been the first time us as fans have ever seen a fully realized avatar in a fight sequence in real time. I'm talking about flashbacks or Roku talking to Aang. Like we see the Aang finale, but besides that, I should say, it's because Aang. I wouldn't say Aang became a fully realized avatar, and we can debate about this, but I don't think until after the fight, right? So, like seeing Korra take down a spirit or go against a spirit in full avatar state. What was your thoughts of that fight sequence and how that all played out? It was pretty quick, but the dark.
Well, yeah. I mean, my initial thought was that, like the fight scene was pretty cool. In all honesty, like it was very intense, very, like I don't know what the right word is. Like very, a lot more maneuvering, a lot more different fighting style. It was like a different fighting sequence than what we're used to, and I appreciate that. I was anticipating like because we've never really seen like an actual fight between a spirit and an avatar before. I mean, this was like
this
was like the first time that's ever happened, and so we don't know what spirit, like what kind of powers or moves or anything what a spirit can do. And we got a glimpse of that here. I mean, we got there's obviously like Heibai and like his like white echo that he unleashes, but like that's about it. And so like I thought it was pretty cool. I remember just waiting to see like what the season would further bring when watching it.
Well, it's interesting because I'm just kind of thinking of this now. Like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, when we saw spirits, they were usually like creatures that we could put into our mind of this is what the spirit is kind of being like. Like besides, I would say maybe Heibai, even though it was a polar bear that kind of turned dark, which I'll get to in a second. But all the other, like an owl, a centipede looking thing, a fox, they're all like animals, and so seeing this creature that we don't know what it is was interesting. Going back to Heibai really quick, his forest was destroyed. In this series, we see good spirits turning dark. Is that what happened to Heibai? He turned dark because there was violence around him, and we saw that good spirits, can turn evil due to the environment around them.
Right. No, I agree with that. Actually, makes sense.
Yeah,
because it's about revenge, right? It's about like they think Heibai thought that this village was the reason for the forest being burnt down, and so he was just being he was upset, and boom, terrorizing the village.
Cool. So we're introduced pretty early on, right after this fight sequence, to LOK, the main driving force of this season, as the villain, as a teacher of Korra, and really everything that has to do with the series revolves around
her uncle.
So what's your thoughts on him as a character, as a villain, and what they kind of did with his character?
I remember before, like I knew he was gonna be trouble, but taking my previous watch out of it, like you kind of hint of him being trope when there's always that trope of character where you have a student and a master, student being Korra, master being Tenzin,
Mm-hmm.
and then Korra's like, oh my gosh, this guy's doing it a better way, a unique way. And when they are luring and like in sort of way like grooming to have her come like learn from him
Mm-hmm.
how to tame the spirits, when that trope's always, I don't know about always, but 90+% of the time, and that trope's always used, it's always for no good. And so I knew that a danger was coming, but I did not know how or when or what was soon to be played out. But I was like, this is not going to be good news.
Yeah, the trope thing is 100%. Like, whenever, everything you just said, I agree with, and I think that the art style of how they made the character and kind of it was pretty straightforward that he was going to be a bad guy. It was just one of the main characters going to realize it and what's his plan.
Right.
I will say in season 3 they do the trope and it doesn't go that way and actually reverses back and it's like, oh, okay, cool. So that's an interesting thing, and we'll talk about that obviously in season 3.
Right. And one I will say one quote that definitely sealed the deal on how I felt about it was when Korra was arguing with her dad about why do you always think you know what's best for me? I'm like, I mean, he is your father. I'm sure he knows what's best for you. And so when that happened, I was like, if they're really making Korra to be a teenager, which is she still a teenager?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 18, and then there's that time jump later.
I just thought she'd be a little bit more mature at this point, kind of thing. I guess, even with her late teen years, but whatever. Mm-hmm. I just thought, there'd be some sense of she likes her parents, or she gets along, but not here, and then not in this instance, and it just didn't. That did not make sense to me.
It goes back to the trope thing, right? Like if you have a trope that's like that, where teacher someone comes in and kind of steals the student from the teacher, there has to be that. When that doesn't work, she comes back to the teacher and apologizes. So you have to almost make if Tenzin was like, you know what, you're right, you're an airbender. I did my part. But there would be none of that dramatic effect later. Same with the parents. There would be none of that Korra evolving and growing as a character. Now, I think Korra in season 1 and season 2 is not likable. And she starts becoming more likable in season 3 because I think the way she's written, like you said, it was it's a little bit too much. It's a little bit too dramatic. Okay, you got to get in a fight with your whole family, your boyfriend, your it's I don't know if the character they wrote in season 1 would do this. Because she was, maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't, but it's just, it's almost like they needed to have something happen. They needed to get from point A to point B for the story to develop, and they did it quickly because they wanted to continue with the story. But I just feel like they didn't need to do that in season 3 and 4, and they let it breathe a little bit more. And so they didn't put Korra in a negative light because of that. In this season, they did. So I think LOK wasn't a great character, though. As a character, he's the worst villain of the 4 villains in Korra.
Well, that's yet to be seen for me.
Well, you've seen season 3 and 4.
I don't remember
any of it. Okay,
much at all.
Well, he's the worst. Spoiler alert.
No, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
He's the 9th best villain of the series.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I'll be honest. I thought he had a good. They led up to him being the villain. I thought pretty good. That might have been just a plot thing with the creators and
Yeah.
writing.
Right.
But I thought they led him to be the villain because it was still mysterious. Like it was still like they didn't full on admit anything until like episode 4, maybe.
Yeah.
Like
You didn't really know about his plan until like deep into the series too.
Yeah, like there's a civil war that happens, which we'll talk about, and
Probably episode 8, the
yeah,
beginnings part 2 is when you finally know his plan.
yeah, and
Which we're
so
halfway through.
yeah, I thought they just led up to his character, uh, pretty well. But that's the thing. Like, is it like do you give Unlock the credit for or do you just give the writers or
Well,
writers credit?
I go back to they have a lot of great ideas, but some of the ideas fell down, and a lot of this has to do with Nickelodeon and their relationship with this group because my dog is barking furiously right now.
He wants to get on the pod. Come on.
He wants to get on the pod. Part of it is how Kylo, I need you to be quiet. I'm about to make a great point right now. No, part of it is how the series was constructed, right? The Nickelodeon gave them a 12-episode arc or whatever it was to make a sequel series to Avatar. I don't know if they fully believed in it. I heard they didn't fully believe in the idea of having a female lead. Season 2, they said, you know what? It did a great job. Our numbers look great. We believe in this. We'll give you a second season. Yep. Second season came out. They said, oh, wow, okay, the numbers are great. Even though season 2 wasn't as good, the numbers were good. So they gave him a season 3 and a 4. And then by the time we got to season 4, they put him in a weird schedule. They put him at I remember it was Friday at 10. And it's okay, Friday at 10 is okay if your age audience is 12. But the age audience was 16 to 20-year-olds because we're the ones that grew up with Avatar: The Last Airbender. So Friday at 10 o'clock, we were not going out having fun with friends. We were not sitting inside watching Korra. So the numbers took a dip.
Was it really 10 p.m.?
I don't know if it was 10. It might have been 8, but it was still Friday night.
I think 8's fine.
But it was still Friday night. And so if you're gearing your audience, again, original Avatar: The Last Airbender, SpongeBob SquarePants, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, all these smaller shows that are not smaller, but younger audience shows.
Excuse me.
No, younger audience shows. But when imagine putting out any show nowadays. All right, the new Boys is going to come out. The Boys. And we're going to have it come out 9 o'clock on a Friday. Half the audience is not going to watch it. Half the audience is going to go out and have fun with their friends, and they'll watch it tomorrow. And that's what happened with Korra.
And then they'll meet a Troy, and then they'll meet Troy for the night.
Yeah. So and this is before streaming, so people were just watching the reruns the next day or the next week or whenever it was. So they decided to put season 4 online, or at least the majority of season 4. The majority of season 4 they put online. They dropped it Saturday morning or so. I don't know when it was, but they dropped it at a specific time. So yeah. That's what I have to say about that. That's why I think Unalaq and his character they had these great ideas, and they were okay, evil avatar. How can we do an evil avatar? We can have a character. And then they made up this whole spirit world conversion. Right. They made all that stuff up. And while they were making up all this stuff, which all was good, and how they did the Lion Turtles, how they introduced Juan, how they introduced Rava, and all that's great. But they're we need something to get there. That's going to be her evil uncle that we never heard of before, who just kind of pops up. And he's just this evil uncle now, and he's going to trick everybody to open the spirit worlds. And they had this, they created that probably last, how they put Unalaq in there, because they're well, who's the evil avatar? It has to connect to somebody, and by doing all of that, they kind of just made a stale character in Unalaq. All the stuff around Unalaq's great. Vatu, Convergence, Rava, the origins of Avatar, the idea that the portals have to open. But I think Unalaq as a character was not strong.
I will say, no, I mean,
I think my dog ran out of barking, so he's like asleep now.
Poor Kylo. I was originally going to disagree with you, but now that I'm like thinking about it, I remember thinking like the first time, like thinking like, oh, if Unalaq's the villain, like have it be Korra's uncle, so close of kin, that I was like, that's just like a scapegoat villain. That's there was no thought process to who the villain of season 2 should be.
Well, there was never going to be a season 2.
But what I mean is, like, even like when they were making it,
greenlit it. Well, you know what the funny thing is that Unalaq and I think his name is Tarlok, her father,
Tonraq,
they came. So Tonraq and Unalaq came from the north.
Correct.
Remember, and so that being said, if the quote unquote throne or whoever is in charge, whoever is the leader of the North, I wonder if it's like whoever's the king. I guess Yue was a princess, so would that make her father the king, the chief? I guess the head chief.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if for the northern and for the southern tribes, the chief, if it's handed down, because it seemed like it was handed down to Yue. She was the princess. So does that make Korra's father and uncle? Does that make them like the grandsons of something like that of the chief that we saw in Avatar: The Last Airbender? Are they all related? Or
Yue died. Obviously,
Yue died, but there could have been a brother. There could have been. They could have another kid, or maybe it was because of her death, the bloodline ended. They handed it to somebody else, or
maybe,
is the chief
his brother or his sister?
Yeah, and that's why it's so hard, because it's like, you think in the original series that their father was Sokka's father was the chief, and it's like, okay, does that make Katara princess?
Princess K.
I mean, really, we Princess Katara, and then like Sokka's the new chief if he dies. Like that whole like political structure, and how it all works is very loose.
Well, here's the thing, Matt.
Or if it's just a chief, it's just like whoever's the strongest.
I think Sokka and Katara weren't even thinking about that because of how little their tribe was.
Yeah, I know that, but I would say I agree with you, but it was only that small because they were raided multiple times. I'm talking about just overall, like it's just interesting to see the politics and the structure of how tribes all work, because we really have a really good sense of how the Fire Nation did it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a pretty good sense of how each Earth kingdom, the kingdoms were their own thing. But that's just something I brought up. All right, well, we'll move on. So Korra went with Unalaq because Unalaq was able to spirit bend, I guess you could say, which is another whole thing I didn't like. The idea of bending spirits, it didn't seem like again, another thing that was kind of out of left field. It's like, oh,
it was like herding cattle.
Yeah, it was less of like even spirit, but it was like sending them back to the spirit world and making them good again. It was that whole thing was odd, to be honest.
It was odd. I agree.
But after that all happened, Tenzin's down with his family. And Bumi and what's his sister's name?
Kaya.
So Bumi and Kaya, and they go on a little adventure. I will say before I throw it to you, probably my favorite emotional moment in all of Korra. It's a small scene, but it hits. It's when Bumi, and I think we've talked about this before, it's when Bumi, Aang's son Bumi, is talking to his statue and saying something, basically apologizing that he's not an airbender, and he feels like he let his father down by not being an airbender. And I think that's I think that's like the real thing that people go through, like feeling like you let your father down or feeling like you let your family down. And I think Boomy, like he's more comedic relief throughout the entire series, but I
Mhm.
do think that is probably the strongest emotional moment that we have in maybe the entire series.
I don't. I mean, it's. I'll say it's highly emotional. That's all I'll
Highly,
say.
highly emotional. What do you think about Tenzin, his family, that whole trip?
That was the best part of season 2.
Oh yeah, do you think so?
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, seeing the southern air temple, like in Korra time, they redid all the buildings, like as in like repainted, like they made it pretty again. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the sky bison are back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it was very good to see that for me. I liked how I just liked how it was all. I just liked how it was all done. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just it was very pretty. Very like I was like, oh, it's not like death and decrepit
Do
and
you like?
it
Do you
was
like?
genocidal.
Yeah. Well, do you when it comes to so did you like about it the fact that they they cleaned it up and it made it look nicer,
Yeah,
or did you like the fact that the family dynamic in that sequence, how they handled the bison and the kids, or like do you like it all?
no, I was just describing how I liked the look of the
The
Southern Air
visual.
Temple. That's all I was
Okay.
saying.
Okay.
I but if in terms of talking about the family dynamic, I mean,
Mhm.
we all revere Aang like as a funny goofball kid who grows up and you know takes down the Fire Lord, grows up, matures.
Mhm.
Um, we think he's pretty perfect for like his beliefs and all that, but he's not perfect.
But he's not perfect.
He's not perfect. Like
Yeah.
clearly he. I mean, a lot. It's not like he's the only person because every parent goes through this, but he does lack some parental guidance. I mean, he was not like who would have taught him to be a parent? Monkey Otso? Like some like 70-year-old man? Hell no. Um, like uh, I think he did the best that he could for the time because like obviously like he's the Avatar, he has duties and responsibilities,
Mhm.
and they have to know that. But in terms of him having 3 kids, they all need attention, and it did seem like Aang was favored to Tenzin
Mhm.
for obvious reasons, a little bit,
Mhm.
I guess. But it was actually good to see his kids, Kaya, Boomy, and Tenzin, like talking about grown up things, talking
Mhm.
talking about relationships, talking about
Yeah, I agree.
like dad liked you best. Like you were always on the vacations with him,
Mhm.
um, and just talking it out when you think that those 3 have the best sibling relationship, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's mixed because obviously who gets more of the attention. Um, and so like I was very curious on like Boomy. Like I thought like I can't imagine Aang and Katara, firstborn kid, no bending. Like, can you imagine that?
Yeah, well,
Like,
yeah, it is fun. Tenzin's the youngest, right?
Tenzin's youngest.
So it is kind of interesting to see that like they had 2 kids and they were probably like, oh no, like we need to pump out an airbender. You know? Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's something that like they probably thought about. Yeah, I mean, and it's funny when also like going back to like we didn't think that Aang would be like this like and I know you don't say this, but there's so many people that would be like Toph wouldn't be a cop. No, that's too structured for Toph. Or it's like, like, and Aang wouldn't do this. And it's like, they were 10, 12. People change, like the idea that these characters that we saw for a 6-month period when they were 12 years old couldn't 20 years later, 30 years later, be something else. Like, come on. I mean, I've always said that. That's like wild. I mean, that's. I just thought about that when you said like we wouldn't think Aang wouldn't be a bad father. And I think he, going off of that, I do think that Aang tried to be a good father. It's just when you do have an Airbender son, and this is the son that's going to further my culture and my entire life.
Right.
My legacy, I guess you could say, because Tenzin did have the mentality in season 1 that like he was his father's legacy. So that's something his father probably put in his head. All right, well, let's talk Varric.
Well, wait, before we get into that,
Yeah.
what about Nora looking at Aang's statue? Like granddaughter.
I don't remember that scene, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
What happened?
You don't care about grandkids. That's just what it is.
No, tell me what happened.
I mean, she just looks and that's it.
I don't remember it.
No, I mean, she like says like something along the lines of paraphrasing, like hi Grandpa Aang, like glad we're here. Like there's a little like sweet moment, and it, yeah, I mean, it was just like cool to see like her being granddaughter.
Okay, yeah, I to be honest, I don't remember that scene very much, but
because I don't care about
we'll talk about Janora a little bit later too. Yeah, and there's a lot of good scenes in that episode / little mini arc they had.
Well, what about here's the one thing I'll add on to that is when Tenzin. I really liked this. Like it was one of the sweetest moments when Tenzin, when Ikki is goes missing, and Tenzin becomes the father that maybe Aang wasn't to the rest of his kids. That's what I got from it, in the sense of like him playing off about her imaginary friends, having tea, and like being a dad, like just being like going along with her imagination, because that's what parents should do in certain situations like that. Like play off of that, and it was a really
as a father for the first time.
Yeah, it was really sweet. It really was. Yeah.
Well, let's move to a couple other minor characters before we get to some of the major ones. We met Varric for the first time in this season, who is one of my favorite characters in Avatar: Legend of Korra. And we got some Varric and Julie. We got some Bolin and Asami time. And then they eventually made the movers, which was what was his name?
Nuktuk.
Nuktuk. The Adventures of Nuktuk. And yeah, again, another like the concept of Varric is awesome. I love Varric. Like he is the definition of like what they needed in the show, because Bolin was great as a funny comedic relief, but much like Sokka grew, Bolin grows, and he's still funny throughout the series. But they needed something else to come in and just the combination of Varric and Bolin and Asami, that trio for a few episodes, and Bolin and Varric later on in the series. It's just like it's comedic gold. It's, in my opinion, some of the best sequences and some of the best like times are with those two characters. But they didn't really have anything to do this season. So what did they do? They made up this mover idea for the Civil War. I thought all that was bull. I thought it was all bad. I thought it was all bad. I mean, we can talk about the Civil War too, because it kind of reflects it. But like the whole movers thing, that like 3 or 4 episode arc with them, it was just, it was not good.
It didn't land.
It didn't land. Yeah, it was like there was moments with Varric, because Varric's a funny character. There are moments, like I still think the one of the best things is where he's like, I forgot exactly what episode it is, but they're talking in his room and he's in the bear, the plastic bear, and they're like, "Do you have any honey?" And he's like, "We're in a bear." He's like, I'm in a bear, and then they like poop out money or something. Like, I just thought that whole like Varric is hilarious, and
Yeah, and he's like,
funny.
"Did you get that, Julie?" And she's like, "How's your assistant in that bear?" He's like, she's always around."
Yes, sir. She's like underneath. Yeah, I mean, Varric's hilarious, but again, it's like having great characters in a comedy and being like, these characters are funny, but the story that they put them in is just stupid. It doesn't make sense, and it's still funny, but it hurts what the story could have been. And the best comedies all have the best stories too. So like, you have these 2 or 3 or 4, if you want to add Julie, if the characters, and they're awesome, and they're like, it works so well, but then you put them in this horrible like 5-episode story arc or whatever it is, it just didn't work.
No, I thought the dialogue was actually got a little bit better this season overall, just with like the comedy with Varric and Bolin, and we'll probably get into this like right now or very soon, but Ezka and Desna.
Yes, I think something like that. Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, those characters. What would you think about those characters?
This season was just a lot of comparing and contrasting. So, like, the Spirit World, I thought it was like Studio Ghibli.
Okay.
With those two twins, I thought they were like Bob's Burgers characters. Like
I've never seen.
Well, I've only seen a few episodes of Bob's Burgers, and they looked like their tone of voice came from like one of the children from Bob's Burgers, and like they were just so monotone and like funny. That's what I immediately thought of when
you know who plays Esna, I think her name, the female.
Is it Zelda Williams? Is that her?
No, it's Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Rec.
I've never seen Parks and Rec.
In Parks and Rec, she has that. It's literally the same character. It's the same monotone, and she's a great kid. Awesome. She is the girlfriend of Chris Pratt's character.
Okay.
And so it's and that's literally her character is just monotone all the time, and like kind of annoyed and kind of like it seems like she hates everybody. And they literally took that character and they were like, "Hey, I don't know what this really happened, but they're like, hey, that character, just put her in Last Airbender or in Korra somehow." And
right,
they did it.
Zelda Williams is in Korra. Do you know who she plays? Zelda Williams.
She's the villain of season 4.
Well, thanks for ruining it, then. But have I met
great character? No.
Have I met Zelda Williams yet? No.
You will in season 3.
Oh.
Yeah, great character too. Great character.
Kuvera.
Yeah, Kuvera. You know who it is. Get out of here. Yeah. Yeah. So Kuvera. She's Kuvera. I think I told you that on one of our podcasts.
And our channels that were plugged into.
Yeah. It's Kuvera. Yes. Yeah. So. But yeah, I mean, those two characters. I mean, again, comedy relief, I guess. I feel like those two characters. They were there for comedy relief with Bolin for a little bit, but they were also, I feel like, for the final fight there to separate Korra, the avatars to fight, and then the rest of the group to have a little mini challenge so they couldn't get to her.
Right.
And that's kind of why they were there for the majority of the seat. I mean, like, it's like, what else did they were there for?
I loved, like, the way that they made the animation of, like, when Bolin and them broke up and she was chased, and I'm like, it was so good.
So before we jump ahead a little bit, let's talk about the movers, but let's talk about the Civil War altogether and Varric's scheme and how that all developed.
With the movers.
No, Varric's the sting. With Varric being, do you not even remember that? There's a Civil War going on. One of the political.
Oh yeah. It almost worked.
Mako.
Damn it, Mako. I thought it was great. I mean, it almost worked. It was a great idea.
I actually liked that. I actually liked that. Like they made this. They made this funny character Varric pop in, who is a good guy, but they make him pop in, and you love him as a character. You think he's funny, and then he ends up being a villain. Like not a villain, but like
for a small second.
small second.
Like he makes you believe that he's like up to no good too.
I love it. This is spoiling one scene from season 3, but I'm gonna say it because it's hilarious. They're like, "Oh, Varric's back." Oh no, and they're like, "He's like, what? I didn't." He's like, "I was on your side. Like, remember I helped you in this. And they're like, "Well, you blew up that building." He's like, "I own that building. I can blow up my own building." But anyway, sorry about that. Like, oh my god, Varric.
One of my favorite Varric lines. Well, one out of 2 is the one where he's like, "Look me in the eye, and we got a deal." And then he's like, "Julie, I think that's our cue to run."
I like also with Varric where he's like at the beginning where he's like telling everyone he's suspended off the ground, and then like Bowling calls him out on it. He's like, "I like this again." He's you brought your shark with you, didn't you? Sorry. And Bowling's just like.
And then remember he gets like thrown in prison. Like, I didn't know you'd be living in a prison like this. I always thought I would live in the prison somehow. Didn't you have a backup plan?
Yeah, no, they're like, "Why is this prison so nice?" He's like, I made this prison. I made this jail, so I made one prison, or I made this prison, so I made one jail cell, like a hotel. So then they throw me in it, I beat it. It's like a beautiful, like a hotel room with like a beautiful view of the city. Julie's in there. Doing all of his like chores. It's just like a suite. And he's just like, "Yeah, I made this. This is the only prison in town, and I made it. And I made one just in case I ever went in."
And we'll get into it. But the first, like, because like everyone says that season. I mean, I'm sure I'll eventually agree to it. But like season 2, people say it's the weakest of the Korra seasons, and the first like 5-6 episodes, I was like, what's so bad yet? You know, like, I couldn't like get to it until like I couldn't like put my finger on it until later.
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel like season 2 and started how season 1 ended, like kind of messy.
It started, yeah.
Like kind of messy, and like we're 7 episodes in, after the sting, and we're like, what really has happened? Like there's a civil war, and there's the whole movers thing, but it's like, where are we at? What's the plot of this show right now? Like we're halfway through this, you know what I mean? It's like all these things are happening with these characters, and we don't really know as an audience. And now we kind of have a sense now that the villain is Unalaq. And, we got some time with Tenzin's family, and we had this little civil war with the South and the North. But, like, we still really don't have a sense of what this season's about, and it's kind of just messy. And I agree with you. Like, none of the episodes individually are bad, but it just all comes to get together as, like, kind of blah. But I would say this:
it's a mosh pit of ideas, is what it is.
And none of the episodes are particularly good. They're all like miss. They're all like, okay, some of them are funny, a couple good action sequences, but there's no standouts of like great episodes, at least for me.
Not even the family episodes with
Tenzin. No, I mean, cool. You get some time, good moments in those episodes, but like I didn't walk out of any of those episodes being like, wow, what a great, like I'm really excited for where we're at. Now,
I thought that was one of my I thought it was a very good quality episode.
Yeah, no, I mean, like if you like it, I'm not like I'm just saying overall. I'm just saying overall.
You're trying to diss familial relationships. That's what you're trying to do. Yeah.
So, episode 7, episode 8, the beginnings, is in my opinion the best thing in this season.
Oh, it's up there.
Is obviously explaining how the Avatar came to be through the Lion Turtles and how they explained Rava and Vatu. I think the explanation of how it all worked is perfect because it does all make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if they actually had this already planned out, but it was done well. It was done really well.
I agree.
And by the way, the voice of Juan is Glenn also. from
Stephen Yeun from Walking Dead.
Yep, and he's also the main character of Invincible. Yep. So
That made my day.
so but overall, I mean, it was I loved those 2 episodes. At the beginning, you get another small instance of Korra talking to her past lives. I don't know why they didn't do this more in this season and in other seasons, but it's just, well, we know why in other seasons. But this would have been the perfect season where it's like, she can communicate now with Aang. Why doesn't she do it?
Yeah.
They just never really, it would have been I would have loved to see, it would have made this season so much better if there was just like 2 or 3 situations where she's talking to Aang. Would have been awesome. What's your thoughts of that 2-parter?
At first I was like, oh no, like the animation and explaining the world of Juan. I thought the animation for Juan's world, like the flashback, was very weak and poorly designed. So like I thought it was gonna be like try to be pulling teeth and try to get through it. But as it went on, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I buy the lion turtle thing. Like I buy them like giving the avatar bending. That I buy.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't buy them like being the guardians of cities. I just don't know if I buy that. This is a personal thing. But
Okay.
But you see Juan grow a lot. Like even within that was like 13 minutes of the episode right there. It was just like was all Juan. I really liked that.
Now, 2 quick things. 2 quick things. One, would you like a?
You mean Juan?
Juan. Would you like a Juan, the 8-episode show, just putting more content in, or do you think those 2 episodes was enough?
I'm always down for more Avatar as long as it's better explained.
Okay.
The animation needs to be better.
Yeah, like really with the normal animation. And then another one is Aang's lion turtle, the last lion turtle.
We don't know.
Oh, I was going to ask you like a what's your theory on that? You just said I don't know.
No, I mean I said we don't know. I mean I wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Where would other ones be?
I don't know, Matt. Like one just showed up in the finale of season 3 of the original. We don't know.
He was in the water.
Yeah, so another one might be randomly in the water somewhere.
I was saying, do you think there's like a herd of like 5 of them just hanging out in the ocean somewhere?
That's what they did with the Sky Bison.
True. All right. Well, now let's talk about. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but now let's talk about Jinora bringing Korra into the spirit world. That whole experience, and then running into a familiar face.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, like you said, I don't like the spirit world, what they made. I don't even like, this might be a very controversial thing I'm about to say. Very controversial thing I'm about to say. I do not like that they brought Ira back.
I agree. I actually agree with that.
I think it was forced.
It was. It was.
Yeah. Him being in the spirit world, I get it. I get where they were going with it. Again, great idea. But it's just, I didn't like it.
I agree.
So, yeah.
I remember watching it for the first time and being like, oh my gosh, Ira. Right. Like any normal fan would watch it for the first time would be. And then this, and I didn't really pay attention the second time, but the third time, I'm like, yeah, like it makes sense because like he's been to the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
Does he does he? I don't think he goes there.
That's not his physical body.
No, like it was very odd.
It reminds me as if they were to do this in the MCU, where it's like, okay, guys, here we are, Avengers 5. Tony Stark and Iron Man show up. How multiverse? Don't worry about it. It's like that would be cool for like 5 minutes, and then you start thinking too much, and you're like, this doesn't really make sense. Like, why is he here? Like, this is cool, he's here, but it's like Iroh was talking to her, her, and you're like, baby Korra, they like made her into a little girl, and you're like, and maybe that's a metaphor I'm missing, but I'm like, why is she a baby? Like,
Matt, I'm telling you, like that whole sequence when they're in that spirit world, it's literally it's Studio Ghibli Spirited Away is what it is, and you have to like see the movie to like understand what I'm trying to say, but like it's literally what that is. It's like a little girl, and like she's in a dream, and it's very dream sequency, and like there's always like a was there
an evil dragon in Studio Ghibli Spirited Away? Is there like an evil dragon that shows up? And
there's a lot of evil creatures, yes, and that's part of the reason why I thought this, with this spirit animals, like they looked, they didn't look what we we're used to, yeah. So
like, a lot of them aren't animals, even. Like a lot of them are just weird beings. And there's one that was like a carrot. Like it's like. I will say the one that was like when he's like, I don't even know when this was. This might have been Bolin, maybe walking in the finale, and he's like, "Have we been here before? That tree looks familiar." he's like, "Yep, you've been here. Yep, you saw me before, or whatever." I forgot exactly how it went, but I thought that was funny. Yeah, there's something about the whole spirit sequence.
I was not there. Yeah, I was not a fan mainly because I could see where they're grabbing straws. Like I can see where their influence came from, and yeah, it's pretty, but it gets away from what the eerie feeling, the mysteriousness, the semi-dark of the spirit world is. Not that the spirit world is dark. It's a neutral place where both light and dark collide.
Well, I will say this: so when Aang goes into the spirit world. He goes in to the face dealer, and it's very foggy, right? Very foggy, very mystique. Do you think he was near, or maybe even in, but probably near, and the layer of the face dealer was in the fog of the lost souls?
No.
Okay.
Because I like Ko was inside a tree, and it wasn't when Aang was going to see him. There was no fog.
I feel like there was like a foggy.
There was darkness inside the tree because obviously there's no light.
Yeah. For some reason I thought there was always like foggy mist around them. Well, okay, so let's talk about we're getting closer to the finale now. So Rava and Vaatu, that whole arc, the idea that the Avatar is a spirit, the light spirit inside of somebody that gets reincarnated to somebody else. I thought that all was really smooth. I liked it all. I even like the idea of I don't even think the idea of Vaatu being in that tree is fine. Like I'm okay with all of that. That he's just locked away. Do I ever want to see him again? Not really. Is it interesting that we never have an Avatar speak to Rava ever, and now Korra talks to her, like as if it's like part of her spirit? Like I'm not a fan of that. Like I wish Korra didn't communicate with Rava unless Rava was outside of her body.
Right.
But like you see in like this season, and I think even in other seasons, where like she'll communicate with Rava. It's like, no, I don't want Aang communicating with Rava. Like, I want my avatars to be communicating with their spirit. I want their avatars to be communicating with their past spirits in the avatar state. But I do like the idea of Rava in the light spirit.
Right, I agree. Mm-hmm.
Did you like the fight between Juan and her? I kind of skipped all that, but did you like the convergence, all of that?
With Juan?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I really. It was, you'd have to see like the first Avatar like fight and like use the bending from Lion Turtle, and then using like the Lion Turtle agreeing to have Rava be uh, the Avatar's trainer for airbending. Was it airbending?
For what? Rava's trainer.
No, for Juan. The Lion Turtle agreed that Rava can be Juan's teacher for airbending, I believe.
No, it wasn't ever. She was never his teacher. She was, by going through him, he was able to switch
So,
into different elements.
I thought it was switched to airbending only.
Well, at that specific time, he only
Yes.
had
Okay.
airbending and firebending because
Right.
firebending. Juan's original bending. So the first Avatar ever was a firebender.
Yeah.
And then his first thing that he learned was air. And so by her going through him, he was able to switch to air. And then going through him again, he was able to switch to fire.
Okay.
So eventually he had all four. And so every time she switched to him, he could just switch to whatever he wanted to. But if the spirits emerged and she actually went inside of him, he could do all four. And that would be the Avatar state.
Correct.
And then when he was fighting in the convergence, he was able to make her spirit part of his spirit and be one. And then he was able to go into the Avatar state and use her whenever he wanted to.
Right. And that's where the Avatar, yeah.
The Avatar state.
Correct. And so, I don't even know. I don't remember my whole point, but
just learning the different elements from the Nine Turtles in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, it was very unique. Just like I said, as each scene of one just came about, and each plot, he just matured, and he got better, and he was the first Avatar for a reason, and I could definitely see okay, I like this guy. And
he went from immature, goofy, kind of someone that's reckless and gets in trouble, but he has a good heart. And then he was the first human to have a love for the spirits and understood them, which allowed him to grow as a character.
Right.
And then he looked at his mistakes and helped him grow as a character. They did all of that really well. And I will say it was also really cool to see him use all four elements, just like Aang in that circle. Mm-hmm. Use the I don't know what it's called, but the ball with all the different elements, just like Aang did. So that was really cool too. All right, well, let's talk about the finale. Really I think all the fight sequences the fight sequences between evil Avatar, LOK, and Korra was really good. I thought the choreography was really good.
Oh, the choreography was great.
I thought that was probably one of the better fight sequences we've seen in the entire series. I think everything was good with Bolin, and I think everything was fine with the episode before the finale, I believe it was. I'll just say it once, I'll say it again. The idea that they separated Rava from Korra and injured her enough where Korra cannot communicate with her past spirit or past self, past lives, I should say. They need to retcon that. They need to. I mean, I'll say it every episode. We can make it into a clip every episode. They need to retcon that because that is what makes the Avatar so awesome. That's what makes the show awesome. Be able to talk to past lives, and it's it's a very unique thing. I know the Black Panther has it, I guess, but it's a thing that because now we're going to be going into the third Avatar. It would be great to have the third Avatar communicate with Korra, Aang, Roku, Kyoshi. Those four. Because when Aang was communicating, we didn't know the other characters. So we learned them a little bit here and there. But by this Avatar talking to Korra, Aang, Roku, and Kyoshi, those are four characters we know a lot about. And so it's that would just be really cool. And they just took it all away.
No, yeah, I remember. I remember seeing that scene first time watching it, several years ago, and I was like, something. I didn't really understand what was happening at the time. Mm-hmm. I just saw images of avatars disappearing. I'm like, this should mean something, but I don't know what it means. And then now I'm like, oh, then I just like the dialogue with like Korra and Tenzin after the fact. I'm like, oh, yeah, I see what Matt was talking about. I do not like that. That is a no-no. And so, yeah, I mean, it was very interesting the way that they pulled off the finale. I didn't really necessarily understood it because like Korra originally was reaching for Vatu's heart, but then like it wasn't there, but then like it suddenly was. Because that's
in the finale,
yeah.
I think in the finale there's something along the lines of like evil cannot fully die, just like how light cannot fully die. So she was able to remember that, and then Jinora essentially was able to locate where she was inside of Vatu, and she was like, okay, cool, like there might be 1% of her, but I can pull it out. And just like how Wan, she was super small with Wan as she was growing, so she pulled him out and was able to kind of balance it again, and then reemerge with her. What's your thoughts? I'm curious to think. What's your thoughts? Curious to see what your thoughts are about the Tree of Time and her turning into a large spirit monster.
I did not like it. I'll be honest. I thought again it was like pretty good animation. Like I'll give the props to that, but I didn't like it. Again, I'm doing like I said. This season was comparing and contrasting. I thought like her fighting Vatu and her being Gigantor like time like was like a Power Rangers episode where like two giant things just collide and just fight it out, good and evil.
Yeah,
it just didn't. I was like, eh.
Yeah, I like the idea of the Tree of Time and her seeing her past moments and learning from it. And I like where they were going with it, where they were like something along the lines of paraphrasing, but like back before the Avatar, people were able to spiritually get to a point where they could go essentially in the Avatar state, but before the Avatar, so it was more like a spiritual high or whatever you could say, awakening, and then turn into a spirit, or their spirit can go away from them, and their spirit can move and do things. I kind of thought about that. I'm like, that would have been a fine finale if it wasn't a big monster fight, maybe, or something like it just like something like is like the idea of that works, but like what the idea of it is and what it ended up being were like two different things.
Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it's like, okay, if you're just a human being, maybe you're able to meditate and do that, all the things the Tree of Time and all the things that Tenzin was telling her, and go and then become your own spirit person, I guess, and go away from your spirit. Maybe that's what Iroh did when he was passing. He became a spirit and went to spirit world. Who knows? That's what Aang was trying to do with the Guru, but Aang did not do that. He was going to go into the Avatar state because he is the Avatar. So I almost would have really liked something like that, like a Chakra thing, or maybe not a Chakra thing, but like something about it. Just I'm like, I get where they were going with the whole thing, but it just didn't work.
Well, did you notice that it was the same?
Mm-hmm. But that's what I was saying. Like, if you're a human, doing everything she did, being detaching yourself from your body, like that was if you're a normal human, you can just become a spirit. But if you're the Avatar, you have this Avatar spirit inside of you. So instead, you turn into the Avatar state.
Right.
And you're activating your spirit is not leaving your body and being a spirit. Activating your spirit is activating the Avatar state. And that's what the Guru was trying to teach Aang. So like that's how I kind of like put it together. But again, it's just like the whole fight, it
was too quick. I
thought
like there was a lot of new concepts that just not that it shoved in our face, but that just all happened at once towards the end, and I'm just like,
yeah,
okay. And just like going back, because I wanted to ask you this, what's your thought of like Jinora being the passageway to the spirit world?
I'm okay with it. I like the idea that Tenzin. I kind of like when characters like. I mean, maybe it's because I do this myself all the time, but like I think I like when characters have an idea of what they want to be and they fail, and then they're like, "I'm okay with being this version of me." So like I like that about like I really like Tenzin as a character. I really like a conversation he had with his father. That was in this season, right? My spoilers on.
Yeah, it was, and that's what my favorite scene.
Yeah,
That was my favorite emotional scene of the
yeah.
season.
So I really like that scene, and I like the idea of him being like, "My daughter is this. I'm not this, and I'm okay with it." At first he wasn't okay with it, and him like realizing like I am not. I just like my brother and my sister am not what my father wanted me to be, and I'm okay with that. Just like
Right.
they are. They learn to be okay with it, and I am too. And now Jinora can take that role. So he's the airbending master. She's more of the spiritual master, which makes sense because she was looking for a spiritual master, thought it was Unilok. By the end of the season, she realized it's Jinora. So
Right.
I like that how that all tied together, and it still makes Tenzin important because he's still the leader of the Airbenders, and now Jinora is kind of in place with that as well. So I didn't even talk about the Mako Korra relationship. Kind of skipped over that, but I'm glad we did. I mean, it's really easy to forget,
Yeah.
I mean, I need. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, just to put a comment or two in there about that.
Mm-hmm.
Just the whole like, oh, Korra, like we broke up. Don't you remember? No, I don't. We had a fight. We had a pretty bad fight. Don't you remember? Actually, no, I don't remember that. What turned been all that bad, right? And he's
what was the point of Korra losing her memory? Like she gets it back literally 80, like literally like the next episode. Did they only make her lose her memory so they could have this fun little triangle continue?
Yes.
Love triangle continue.
Because then you get Mako's like facial reaction of
yeah. It's just
and then you get like Asami's like eyes like and then it was
I've said this before. So the whole Avatar: Last Airbender, you have Korra as a character. Bolin falls in love with Korra. Korra falls in love with Mako. Right? Mako starts dating Asami. Asami and Mako are together. Korra has a crush on Mako. Mako ends up leaving Asami for Korra. Going into season 2, Mako and Korra are a thing, aren't working out. Mako ends up leaving Korra for Asami, but Korra lost her memory, so Korra still thinks that Asami or Mako and her are dating, and Asami is single. But really, Asami and Mako are together. And then Mako says, "Never mind, Asami, I'm out. I'm going to go back to Korra." By the end of the season, they break up, and it ends up being all of them single, and will continue from there. That is why season 1 and 2 is messy, because in my opinion, they do so much with the relationships, so much bouncing around, and it's like now that the season's over, they are done with the relationships with those 4 characters until Bolin has a nice relationship with a new great character.
Ginger.
The very, very end of the series. Who?
Ginger.
Oh. No. Oh. Great new character. Great relationship they have. And so it's like that all. Now, and I think the messiest part, we talk about how the season 1 and season 2 are so messy. Season 1's a better season. Season 2's messy and not that great. The reason why I think is because these characters are all in relationships with each other, in and out of relationships, and they have to like revolve certain plot points around that. And it makes so certain plot points are rushed or certain plot points are flushed out. Certain characters could be better, but they have to be like Asami could be so much better of a character in the first 2 seasons, but they have to make her tied with Mako, which has to make her also jealous with Korra, which is right. And there's this weird tension. Like the finale, the last 4 episodes of season 1, it's like Asami's like in this weird like do I still can't even hang out with these people? Like, and you just get this like weird vibe from her. I'm gonna let my dog in. But
well,
go ahead. I'm gonna get him on the podcast. Come here, buddy.
Well, if you've made it this far, Cabbage Crew, you're about to see something real special.
Come here, Kylo. Come here, get daddy hugs. He doesn't want to come to me. He's like, no. What's on your head? You want a treat? You want a treat? You want a treat?
He spoils him rotten.
Come here. No, you have to come here and give me a hug first. The whole fucker ran downstairs. Yeah, so
no, like I remember I was like, "Where's Asami? Where's Asami?" She doesn't come up to like season 4 or episode 4 of season 2.
Really?
Like she just shows up randomly.
Yeah, it's like, and that's the problem. They had her as in season 1. They have her as the love interest, weird love triangle thing, and then in season 2, it seemed like they didn't know what to do with her. And now maybe that's how they introduced Varric, and they had that whole story arc with her and Varric, and that's cool because Varric's a good character, but
she has a good strategy when they're in the spirit world, though. Like I remember, she came up with the original strategy of what they should do, and I was like, "Oh, okay, Asami taking a leadership role. I like it."
Yeah, I mean, I like Asami. I mean, her character gets. I will say in season 3. Season 3 is my favorite season because you get all 4 characters of the main characters, right? The 4 team Avatar. It's the first time we see them as really team Avatar. They have a mission. They have a strategy. It's a story arc with those 4 together as a group. No love triangles, no love, and you have a villain group, and it's like, and they collide, and there's just, and you see them fight multiple times. You see them have ideas with each other. So it's like, it's the first time I'm like, wow, this seems like it's actually a team Avatar and not a weird love triangle and different characters going on different story arcs by themselves. And it seems like it's a legit thing. Come here.
I don't believe in that team Avatar. Let me tell you that right now.
Season 3, it'll get better. I'm telling you. By the end of season
I just don't believe in that team Avatar.
What do you mean?
It's only Aang, Sokka, Katara, and Toph. And Zuko later on.
And Suki.
Yeah.
Come here. This is my dog. Hello, Kylo. He wants a treat. Made it to the podcast.
Adorable. But yeah, I mean, they just drew out those relationships just too much.
Yeah.
A little bit. I'm all there for drama. Like I love a good relationship dynamic, but like it became messy, and I agree with you there.
Yeah. All right. Well, my dog's crying for a treat because I've said it like 3 times. You want a treat? So I think we're good. We're an hour and 15 minutes into this thing. I'm going to give you so season 1 out of 5.
Yeah.
I believe you rated it a 3.75.
Yeah, it was like a 3.6.
3.6. Well, I like going by 2.5s or 0.25s. So
then it'd be 3.5.
3.5. I gave it like a 3.75. Season 2.
Oh. The good thing is, for like with there's like for me there was way better aspects than initially thought that I would see. I'd give it a 3.
A 3?
Yeah.
Positive?
Yeah, because I was expecting worse.
Yeah,
I was expecting worse.
I probably give it a 2.5.
That's fine.
I think the negative outweigh. I think if they didn't kill the Avatar state thing, if all that didn't happen, and the past Avatars weren't lost, it'd probably be closer to a 3. It'd probably be a 3. But that just kills it so much for me, and I hope they retcon it. We'll see.
Yeah.
But all right, Cabbage Crew. Well,
that was our cabbage calculus for season 2 of
No, that
Legend of
wasn't really.
Korra.
That was more of our That was more of just a review. That wasn't a calculus.
It's our calculus is between 1 and 5.
It's a cal. Yeah, no, it's a cal. Yeah. Next week, though, we are doing a top every 10th episode. We're doing a top 10. So we will be doing our next week. We will be doing our actually
2 weeks.
this week. This week from now, this upcoming week, because this episode is gonna be filmed 2 weeks ahead of time. I got the schedule. Don't worry. This this upcoming week, we are going to have a top 10. I believe it's going to be top 10 locations of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and you will see our first real calculus when it comes to our cabbage calculus. So definitely stick around for that. My dog really wants some treats, so subscribe. We've gained some subscribers, so we're in the 40s now. So the cabbages are multiplying.
The cabbage patch is multiplying.
It's multiplying. My dog's literally barking. You can hear him.
Yep.
So
we thank you for your support. Keep on spreading the word. We need all support we can get, because hey, we're just two heads of cabbage.
I guarantee you no one's watched it this long. All right, peace.